Hello, my name is Isaac Gower. Today I will be responding to the claim by Daniel Clark that the two-party system is destroying America's democratic system of governing. His secondary claims were firstly that the two-party system has created bipartisanship and is stifling attempts at reformation that the general public wants. Two, that multi-party systems have rigged elections in favor of the two majority parties, creating near impossible voting environment for a minority party politician to be elected into. Thirdly, he states that the two-party system is undermining overall diversity in politics in general. Okay, so our response to his first claim about the two-party system stifling attempts at reformation for the general public, he used statistical information and said that a 2010 Gallup poll surveyed a group of adults asking, would you advise your member of Congress to vote for or against a health care bill this year? 37% answered yes, 41 no, and 22 had no opinion. Speaker commits the fallacy of hasty generalization by claiming that close voting results suggest an unwillingness of congressmen to consider the will of a slight minority in favor of their own political agendas. The Speaker doesn't take into account why there's a large group of unrepresented people who did not vote in the election at all. So perhaps these results better serve to demonstrate a problem with voter education. If 22% of the population doesn't care either way about passing a bill that will affect their lives in so drastic a way as the health care reform bill does, that's not the fault of the politicians. If this chunk of the population were better educated or better acquainted with the implications of a health care reform bill, they'd probably be more likely to have a say in the matter of whether or not to institute a new health care plan. As far as the evidence goes, I believe that the Speaker has missed the point of the survey by associating it with political parties at all. The evidence does not accurately back up the Speaker's point because in nowhere does the data suggest that this survey dealt with Democratic or Republican parties. And it doesn't make a point about political interference because the results are unaltered opinions of people who were just surveyed off the street. So, I mean, there was no political intervention that took place and altered the results of the survey. As far as counterclaims for this go, the Speaker suggests that through the use of statistics and quotes that lobbyists present a significant harm to the government, but doesn't go into detail as to why they are so damaging. Lobbyists are simply people who wish to institute practices within the government that they or the body that they represent feel would be beneficial. The Speaker talks about how pharmaceutical and health products are ranked highest in lobbyist spending for each year, but doesn't state why this is a bad thing. Pharmaceutical and health products are products which provide medical attention to citizens, so it makes sense why it might be an important topic for lobbyists to talk about. A recent article from the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars states that a lobbyist's principal function is to serve as a conduit of information. They are needed to focus and distill the masses of information available on any given issue. The most effective lobbyist will educate a member in the public policy context and will mobilize local interests. My response to his secondary claim about multi-party systems rigging elections in favor of two majority parties, the Speaker provides no evidence as to why it would be a positive thing for a third-party politician to be elected to office. He points out that there have been 6 U.S. presidents through all of history that have been neither Democratic or Republican, but doesn't give any information about their influence in society. The Speaker commits a sweeping generalization by asserting that that third-party voters have no say in government policy, but voting is not limited to elections of public officials. Third-party voters can still vote on propositions which they feel affect their lives, and whether or not they win isn't based on parties. It's based on the will of the majority of the people, depending on either party which they are represented by. For the third claim about the two-party system undermining overall diversity in politics in general, I believe that the Speaker has not taken into account exactly what a democratic society consists of. Merriam-Webster defines democracy as government by the people, or especially by the will of the majority. and since Democrats and Republicans constitute the vast majority of the population, it seems fair that there should be, or that these should be the two parties which should be representative of the people's opinions. So in closing, I hope you'll agree with me that the claim that the two-party system is destroying America's democratic system of governing is false.
All right, well, the main claim and secondary points are labeled. You might want to do a little bit of paraphrasing before you get into the argument so that we kind of summarize what the advocate's intention was and how they advance that point. Just listing the claims doesn't always help. And I think part of the problem here is because we get some phrases that are used in multiple ways, it gets a little complicated. I thought you did a good job in challenging the public opinion argument on the first point, suggesting that there's an inference being made here that suggests that there are really a greater diversity of opinion or a greater sense of point of view on the subject than there actually was. Then you've got this cause-effect claim that suggests that it's really not the fault of the two-party system that results in people being uninvolved or uncaring about this particular issue. And that was an okay press, but it seemed like you spent a lot of time on the one survey point, and there are other things that you could be talking about. The argument about lobbyists, for instance, you do have an interesting counterclaim on that point and a piece of information on it. Contrasting that to what the advocate said on this point, I think you could do that a little bit more effectively. Your argument seems to be that the advocate simply didn't present any risk of lobbyists having any influence, and now you've got a piece of information that suggests that they in fact have a beneficial effect. So if we were going to make a comparison contrasting the advocate's point without any information and an inference that is largely an assumption, I think that you've got a good explanation there. The challenge on reasoning on the last point, the first part didn't make much sense to me, the fact that there were some presidents who were not from one of the two major parties. I don't know how that advances either person's point of view and why we're talking about it. I thought that the argument at the end that says that this represents what most people prefer and that's why they become members of those particular parties, I thought that was okay. It might be an example of begging the question, though, and you need some evidence that shows this is in fact where most people's opinions end up congregating there, that there aren't really that diversity of opinions that the advocate's talking about.